There's a sentence I keep hearing women say to other women that genuinely worries me. Just take it for a few months, just to lose that last 5 kilos, just to fit back in that dress, then stop. As though medications like Semaglutide and Tirzepatide are a 3-month membership to being skinnier. And before anyone starts sharpening their keyboards, let me make one thing very clear. This is not an anti-Ozempic video. These medications can be absolutely transformative for people living with obesity, type 2 diabetes, food noise, and serious metabolic health problems. For the right person, prescribed and monitored, they can improve health, reduce risk, and completely change the direction of somebody's life. That is not the problem. The problem is powerful medical treatments are slowly being repackaged as cosmetic accessories for people who are already healthy, but have been convinced that they are still not skinny enough. And I think we need to talk about what this actually means. How did a medical treatment become a beauty hack? Imagine somebody's already within a healthy weight range. They eat reasonably well, their blood work is pretty much fine, they exercise, they participate fully in life, but they have 3, 4, or 5 kilos they particularly don't like. Maybe their stomach is softer than it was when they were 25. Maybe menopause changed where they can carry body fat. Maybe their social media is filled with women whose bodies seem to be shrinking every day. Out of the blue, someone says, why struggle? Just take this injection. That's where the conversation has started to shift. We are no longer asking, does this person have a medical condition that warrants treatment? We are now asking, could this drug help them occupy a little less space? Those are not the same question. And when medical treatment becomes separate from medical need, the risk to benefit equation changes completely. If someone is living with obesity and has a high risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, sleep apnea, or reduced mobility, accepting potential side effects may make perfect sense because the potential benefits substantiated. But when the goal is simply becoming skinnier than an already healthy body, the potential health benefit is much smaller and maybe non-existent. You are still accepting the medication, the cost, the monitoring, the potential adverse effects. But what exactly are you treating? A health condition or discomfort with your reflection? What these drugs actually do. Semaglutide is a GLP-1 antagonist. Tirzepatide acts on both GLP-1 and GIP receptors. You don't need a chemistry degree here. The simple explanation is that these medications influence appetite, fullness, digestion, and blood glucose regulation. For many people, the huge benefit is hunger becomes quieter. They feel fuller sooner, and naturally they eat less. That can be enormously valuable for someone whose biology, health conditions, and environment have made meaningful weight loss extremely difficult. But the medication hasn't taught the body to permanently want less food. It is actively creating part of that appetite effect while the person is taking it. This matters because people are casually talking about these medications as though you complete a short course, graduate, and lose the weight. This is not what the evidence shows. In an extension of the Step 1 trial, participants who stopped semaglutide regained around 2/3 of the body weight they had previously lost within the following year. That doesn't mean the drug failed. It means the treatment effect was no longer present. The same basic pattern appeared in the trials with Tirzepatide. People who continued the treatment maintained or extended their weight loss. People who switched off the medication regained back a substantial amount of weight. Again, this is not evidence that the medications are useless. It's evidence that they behave more like ongoing treatments than temporary cosmetic reset. So when someone says, I'm only going to use it for a few months, the honest next question should be, and what is the plan when the appetite comes back? Because hope is not a maintenance strategy. But don't these drugs improve heart health? And the simple answer is yes. And this is where the conversation requires some bloody nuance. A select trial that semaglutide reduced major cardiovascular events in people with overweight or obesity who had already had established cardiovascular disease. That is a major finding. It is important medicine, but look closely at who was actually studied. These were not healthy women trying to lose 4 kilos before summer. Participants had overweight or obesity and had already experienced conditions such as heart attack, stroke, or artery disease. You cannot take a high-risk situation and automatically hand it over to a low-risk person predominantly using the drug for cosmetic weight loss. That's just like saying this blood pressure medication reduces stroke in people with hypertension, therefore taking it must be healthy for everybody. That's just not how evidence works. The question is not ever just, does the medication have benefits? The question is, for whom do the benefits outweigh the risks? And right now, there is not enough evidence showing that already healthy normal weight people become healthier by suppressing their appetite to pursue an increasingly narrow beauty ideal. And that limitation matters. Absence of evidence does not prove disaster, but it also does not give us permission to pretend the evidence exists. The weight you lose is not just fat. This is probably the part that receives the most sensational coverage. You'll hear people say, Ozempic destroys your muscles. That is just too simplistic. But saying that muscle does not matter is equally irresponsible. Whenever body weight drops, particularly when it drops really quickly, the weight lost is usually a mixture of fat mass and lean mass. Lean mass is not identical to skeletal mass. It also includes water, organs, and all the other tissues. A systematic review published in 2024, weight loss, concluded that most of the weight reduction came from fat, but notable lean mass reductions remained a legitimate concern. This does not prove the medication uniquely melts muscle. Calorie restriction without the medication can also reduce lean mass. The bigger practical issue is if someone has very little appetite, eats bugger all protein, performs absolutely no resistance training, and loses weight rapidly, why would we expect their body to preserve every gram of muscle? The drug may help create the calorie deficit. It doesn't automatically create a nutritionally adequate diet. It doesn't lift weights for you. And it does not guarantee that the smaller body you are building is stronger, healthier, or more capable. This is particularly important during midlife. Muscle is not vanity tissue. It supports strength, balance, glucose management, independence, and the ability to keep doing normal human things as you get older. And for women approaching or moving through menopause, protecting muscle and bone becomes not less important. But the practical lesson is sensible. Medication should not replace movement, and weight loss should not come at the expense of becoming physically fragile. Eating less is not automatically eating better. There is another assumption that needs challenging. If someone is eating less, we tend to assume their nutrition must be improving, and that's not necessarily correct. Someone can eat 900 calories of nutritionally poor food just as easily as they can eat 2,500 calories of the same food. When appetite is heavily suppressed, food quality becomes more important because there is less total food available to supply what the body needs. Protein, calcium, iron, essential fats, vitamins and minerals, fiber, enough overall energy to train, recover, and just function. A smaller appetite can make achieving those things 10 times harder. Not impossible, but harder. That is why these medications need to be paired with proper medical oversight and competent nutrition support. Not advice from Susan in the Facebook group who lost 7 kilos and now thinks she's an endocrinologist. The more defensible concern is simple. When someone consistently eats very little, it becomes easier to underconsume important nutrients. And when the only metric being celebrated is the number on the scale, those trade-offs can simply remain hidden. The bigger problem is not the drug. The drug is not creating our obsession with skinny. It's simply arrived inside a culture that already rewards it. Women have spent decades being told to shrink their waist, shrink their appetite, shrink their arms, shrink after pregnancy, shrink through menopause, shrink before the wedding, shrink before the holiday, shrink before summer, shrink before you're even allowed to be photographed. And now we have a medication that's powerful enough to make that shrinking easy. So of course it's being marketed formally or informally as the latest solution, as the silver bullet. But easier does not mean more healthier, and skinnier does not automatically mean better. This doesn't mean people should be ashamed for using medication. It's quite the opposite. People using these medications for genuine health reasons should not be mocked, judged, or treated as though they cheated. Obesity is complicated. Human appetite is complicated. Weight regulation is complicated. Medication can be a completely legitimate tool, but we should also be able to say that using powerful long-term medication to move an already healthy person closer to an unrealistic beauty standard is a very different proposition. But both of these statements can be true at the same time. So here is the question I think matters most. What is the actual goal? Is it better health, better blood glucose control, reduced cardiovascular risk, improved mobility, freedom from relentless hunger, the food noise, a longer, more active life? Or is it simply taking up less space? Because if becoming skinny matters more than becoming strong, more than eating enough, more than training, more than enjoying dinner with the people you love, the moments, more than having energy, more than participating fully in your own life, then we need to stop pretending that this is purely a health conversation. Semaglutide and Tirzepatide and Retta, for that purpose, are serious medical treatments. For the right person, they can be life-changing, but they were never meant to become accessories for the latest version of the beauty ideal or the beauty standard. We spent years trying to move beyond crash diets, starvation plans, and that a woman's smallest body must be her best body. We should be very careful that newer and more powerful tools do not quietly lead us back to exactly the same place, just with better branding. I would genuinely like to know where you sit on this. Do you think these medications are becoming too normalized for cosmetic weight loss? Or do you believe adults should be free to use them for any reason, provided they understand the risks? Keep the comments respectful. This conversation needs more nuance, not another online screaming match.